Well, it's not a final 9 in the traditional sense, but it is the final 9 holes competed here at the 2022 PDGA Tim Selinske U.S. Masters Disc Golf Championships. We're watching the FP40 division bring it home. It's Grant Zellner of the PDGA and Jennifer Allen.
Yeah, this was a little bit unusual for us. They did the top 5 the way that the numbers were. So we have our current leader, Scoggins, followed with Sarah Hokom and Kimberly Giannola on our league card, and the chase card only consists of Jenny Umstead and myself. So a threesome and a twosome for your final 9, and we're starting here on hole number 10. Is a par 3 305-foot downhill shot over our ravine that we play across the entire course. You want to hit this gap straight between all of these trees, nice fairway through here, and try to softly land it in that area that is created with those railroad ties and rocks there. Going long gives you that big downhill putt that can be difficult, and hitting at any kind of angle, you may be rolling back to that ravine. We have a 4-hand group here with Owen, Sarah, and Kim. Oh, that was such a perfect shot by Owen. I believe that kicks and stays right there close.
Yep, it's right there, pin high on the hillside. We'll get to see some fireworks here to start off the back 9, as the 10th was the easiest hole on the day in terms of the field average.
Yeah, the front 9 is a very difficult 9. A lot of hard par 3s that feel like 4s for us. Ooh. Sarah needs that one to turn or get a good kick. Yes! Now stay.
Rolled down a little bit. She's inside the circle.
Better. Yeah, much better place than on that right side. The rough here, I said it all week, is rough. Rough is rough. But the back 9, starting with hole number, I guess 9, 10, and 11 are some of our shortest holes on the course. So some birdie attempts coming up for sure. Kim cuts that really hard. I'm not sure if she was able to cross the creek or not. Sometimes it was better to stay up on the other side than going down. There she is. She was all the way down in that ravine.
That makes that a pretty excellent upshot from there.
We had rain all during the front 9, so everything here is pretty muddy. Great birdie putt to start off the back 9 for Sarah.
Not raining anymore.
No, she is trying to battle back and put that pressure back on Owen.
Yeah, I was going to ask you when we got started here on this back 9, Jennifer, are we to the point now of sort of victory lap, or do you feel like with the woods there's still a little bit of, you know...
Definitely with this course, anything can happen. Owen is not one of those players that ever really makes something catastrophic happen to have a big stroke swing. But a couple of bad kicks and rollaways here that, you know, you get, unfortunately, sometimes without doing anything wrong, it could really happen.
Yeah, you could go double, triple in just a couple of minutes easily. Hole number 11, a par 3 at 183 feet. Don't let the distance of this particular hole cause you to let your guard down. This hole has been a challenge, so much so that players have sort of changed their strategy throughout the week to try to attack it a little bit better.
Yeah, it's in our head kind of like as an upshot. The forehand does stay close to the basket. Backhands have the tendency to go long and down the hill. Few little trees you have to get by. It's not as guarded as a lot of the baskets. That's a good place. That always tends to stick right there. So she's going to stay close to the basket.
Yeah, you'll be standing in the rough, but you'll be, you know, wide open to the basket. That's not a bad place to be, off to the right.
Sarah asking that to get down. She's going to be right there by Owen.
Wow.
And that's what happens if you hit anywhere near the basket. Usually hitting that open fairway out of the rough, but you're going to roll maybe 30, 40 feet sometimes. So that's why the just automatic birdies just don't really happen on this hole. And you can see it kind of looked like everyone was trying to land for that upside because we've had some ugly rollaways this week.
Oh my goodness. What a cool shot that was.
Shot. Wow. So slow-mo almost. You see her and Hokom have a pretty similar, same types of disc and same kind of throws sometimes.
Standing with their back completely to the target and then just sort of fanning out that little Annie.
Ooh, yeah, that was a little right side out of her hand. Sometimes those will stick. Unfortunately, that one did not.
Yeah, heavy chains here on these mock baskets.
And Sarah needs every one of those birdie putts right now to have a chance to win this major. Owen actually has a little bit to shoot around. And she does so. Yep. Good birdie. Couple of back-to-backs. And even with Owen having such, 11 stroke lead right now, I can promise you she's not going to let back. Like, she fights every hole to her game plan, no matter the lead.
Right. I think you and I brought this up before. I'm not even sure if she checks scores often during the round.
I think she does towards the end.
He's way out of position. Like,
he's going to have to force it, though.
I don't think he can.
Think it's even possible?
It's in the impossible range.
The way Worlds ended last year, you couldn't have wrote that in a book.
After the initial reaction, I had to process.
If you don't even think it's a sport, watching this moment has to get you pumped up.
He's going to need the shot of the century.
I could sense something was about to happen.
All right, hole number 12. This is 440-foot par 3 down over our ravine through this tight little gap, and then we're going straight back up the other side of the fairway here. So down and back up, you want to try to shoot straight across, landing somewhere right here in this area. If you hyzer or throw a forehand way over to the left side, you can see there in the sunshine on the left, there is a gap to get up to the basket that way as well. Definitely a placement shot, 2-shot hole, even being a par 3.
That's perfect.
Yeah, anywhere right there, there's a little gap to get to the basket, or you have to go all the way to the other side.
Early tree for Sarah. She's down there at the bottom somewhere.
Yeah, and I think Sarah really feels this more than Owen. Owen doesn't, I don't think, feel like, hey, this is in the bag, but I feel like Sarah feels like she is running out of chances here. And she's in a safe spot. Sarah knows there's absolutely no way any of us are catching up to that second place.
Sarah was at the bottom, and for one of the few times all week, there actually is water in the creek.
And footing. She's actually upright at the top of the backside of that creek. So she's in a good spot footing wise. It's just a very difficult approach from there. Unless you're in those two areas, getting to the basket for a par is hard to do. So I think this was, you missed those spots, you were almost looking at a bogey. And we even have seen on this hole, some of the great approaches will still even hit the basket and roll down into that little gully there in front of the basket. That looks good. Angle's perfect, so it stays right there by the basket. And Kim following suit, but just a little short, so she's going to have a big uphill putt to try to save par.
That didn't dance back all the way to the bottom.
Yeah, I think we're sticking in mud at this point. It was pretty sloppy out there. Ooh, that was, offline, out of the hand. And so you kind of, it's a little hard when you have so many extra layers. Yeah. It was a little chilly. Disc are still even maybe a little bit wet, even though it's not raining anymore.
Yeah, it was weird. It was like chilly and muggy at the same time. I remember. Some players actually by the end of the round were complaining that the discs were almost sticky as opposed to being just sort of wet and slick.
So that's another stroke. Own getting a couple here in a row to start the back nine.
All of a sudden the lead is a dozen. And not only that, I believe Own, checking the stats, Own the only player under par, and she's 5 strokes clear of par.
That's an incredible round in the rain for sure. And I think that shows she doesn't change her game plan.
Not a bit.
You know, she stayed with it.
Hole number 13. This is a par 4 at 640 feet out into the open. And then winding back to the right once we get to the bottom of the hill here. Common landing zone. Really in all divisions, right about where we're flying right now, but some trying to bend something a bit further into the gap. And then here is the pin location up on this little bitty mound. Very steep. Very small, sort of
very
like an
rolly.
elevated, very much like an elevated pin.
Yes, it is for sure. That's a great spot. Maybe just a little too close, a little bit further up would have been a little bit more where that player liked it. I think that's Own. So you don't want to be too short into the trees on the right just because there's some low-lying branches, as well as you do not want to throw too long. Sarah should be hyzering in perfectly. But yeah, you get back pinched off too much on the tree line there past the basket or past the little fairway. It just really makes for a more difficult approach in at that basket. I will say it is nice to air a few out after 17 holes of tightly wooded shots.
I think it was maybe yesterday some of the players started just sort of hooting and hollering while the disc was in the air. They're continuing that today. Kimberly, this is a well-measured up if it can land well. Yes, that one does. Yesterday, I think she got a bit of a roll away. That one nestles right there on the mound.
Yeah, this basket, you almost have to tell yourself, well, you don't want to get into your, sit down.
Weird.
But like you almost have to pretend like there's a pond or something right there. Like you have to focus so much on the basket and making that putt because it almost turns into an OB stroke if you miss. You know, it's going about 30, 40 feet away if you miss and roll over on this basket.
Sarah just plays that right into the bank.
Yeah, and that's, I think, after so many of us have went long on this hole with that difficult comeback putt, you know, you start telling yourself to land short, but then too short is just as difficult. You can see the wind starting to pick up just a little bit.
Yeah, this was a weird little moment in the round where the wind all of a sudden just sort of came out of nowhere, and it does so right here when we're on the edge of the woods, so you don't have the woods protecting you from it.
Yeah, I think it was the backside of that storm kind of pushing out. That's a little low. And I think that's the common mistake at this basket or a basket in this kind of position is you want to just really hit the target no matter what. And so she was aiming at that target and trying not to turn that par into a bogey.
And everybody all done here at the 13th. Just one birdie amongst the threesome.
Kim getting one of her first birdies of the round. Second, she had, I believe, a birdie on the front nine, but rough day for Kim, so that feels good. Hole number 14, 269 feet. This is a par 3 up and over the hill. A lot of oddly placed guardian trees. There's not a huge gap here. Any landing disc right on this crest of the hill is kind of an open, safe area. So you can literally almost putt off the tee, putt up to the basket, and get a par, and there's nothing wrong with that. Trying to get aggressive on this tee can turn into a bogey very quickly. So under 300 feet, and I know several of us were doing a placement shot on this hole, which is weird to really think about. But that's what happened. You get a driver or try to be aggressive, and the kicks were just brutal on this hole. So that's Owen's Firebird. But I do not believe she's trying to penetrate all the way up to the basket. She's just trying to knife one in at the top of that hill.
Sarah's going to be up sort of in the area around where Owen is going to be, maybe a bit further. Kimberly, I believe yesterday, was way off into the rough. At least this time she's got a stance.
Yeah, but still a lot of trees to really have to shoot around. All of these spots right here are difficult to hit, as well as this is so sloppy and slick and muddy right there. That's
nice
a
little
great kick.
I didn't plan for that.
No, after a few bad kicks, that feels good. This is where Owen is trying to land because it's an open, flat area. And like I said, we're pretty much sticking in the mud at this point. She's going with the same disc. She does not typically throw a lot of mids. I believe she just uses that Firebird for approaches. So not a big rock thrower or Mako. So you can see the footing. It's really hard to get your feet still. And the right side.
Off the top.
Right side of this fairway is a lot more open than the left side, but then you have that downhill approach, and this basket definitely sits on an incline that they can roll away like most of the holes here. Owen goes a little bit deep.
Keeps her balance.
Yeah, I think this was the most difficult hole to walk on the course for the day.
Well, I think this was newer.
Yes.
They put this hole in. The course has been there a while, but this is a newer hole.
It definitely looked like a new placement that had just been cut out. It was very rough along the edges.
Lots of stumps, lots of exposed roots that weren't really present very much throughout the rest of the course, surprisingly enough.
And then right there where they're sanding, that's the closest available edge, besides dirt. Like, that's the first grass. That's all thorns. That's some really,
it is. It's gnarly.
Yeah.
Kristen Tatar looking confident early. That is now 8 straight birdies.
Kristen has nothing to lose.
Tatar from the circle's edge for birdie. Punctuation mark on a dominant week in Emporia. Kristen Tatar, for the first time since 2004, a European champion at the Worlds.
A par 3 at 305 feet down the hill, OB all the way up the left side. This is also sort of a side hill fairway, sloping down from left to right. Fun little hole, I think.
Yeah, I loved this hole. My rock threw, it was just a perfect disc for this hole, holding the straight line, the speed of the disc. Anything too sharp can skip over that OB line there on the left side. The slope of this fairway really pulls things down to the right. It's a fun hole. And it has, you know, defined lines that you can hit. That's a great angle from Own. Gonna get a little skip. Oh.
No, just settle. Okay, now stop. Okay, stop.
Wow,
that's enough.
You hate to see that, but it's kind of good that some of that stuff actually gets on coverage, I feel like.
That's true.
Because it's like, oh my gosh, every round we saw several of those, and just really shows the viewers how much of slopes the greens and fairways had. That was a perfectly thrown shot by Own. Sarah gonna hit the clump of trees there in the middle, but that should
line.
Keep it on the right side there. I think the only time I've seen coverage of this course is for the Rumble, which is in the winter. Right. Where it always seems dead. Like I've never seen this course fully green like it really is. It's a beautiful course, but just very challenging, even though a lot of the distances aren't super long. Good bid.
Looks like everyone hopeful to save par here at the 15th.
You see Owen pulling off the little, I want to call them stickers. They weren't even stickers, but we were
hitchhikers. Is that what people call them? They're
maybe
like little Velcro-y things.
They were horrible.
Yeah,
our first couple of practice days. We all joked that by the third, fourth, fifth day being there, that we had kind of picked up most of them, and you didn't get as many because we had already gathered all of them. I know a few of the girls literally threw away their pants because there were so many of them on there that it was impossible to pick off.
Yeah, they don't wash off.
No.
You have to pick them off.
Good comeback putt from Owen. That must have rolled because that looked like a really good bid that landed flat.
Mm-hmm.
But again, just they sneak away on you. Great job by Kim for taking her time. It gets exhausting playing in the mud and the rain and all of that. See Owen, how many stroke lead, and she's still over there mad she missed that putt.
Yeah, she's imagining, what did I do wrong here?
Like, yeah, how do I make that better next time? That's why she is such the great player she is. Hole number 16, we're going 280 feet across this little hill, which leads you straight down into the ravine. So if you can get a disc to fly straight across, we're going up and over and back up, and a lot of elevation changes from tee to green here, and very difficult to get that disc to land and stay up by the basket. So a lot of us just trying to shoot straight across, not as much really aim for the basket, but just really trying to hit the gap off the tee and go straight across this ravine. And that's hard to do sometimes when you see that, illusion of the big hill in front of you.
Yeah.
So the elevation changes on this hole are pretty crazy.
This is a different angle than we've seen. We're kind of off to the right, and we're watching the disc sort of a little bit from the side here. Players are playing mostly around to the left and trying to bring this disc back in from left to right just a little bit. Own too tight on that one, though.
Yeah, it is a pretty tight gap to hit. It
really is.
Yeah, it looks really open because they're not around the tee box, but that initial gap is very difficult. And then when you hit that, you want a nice flat angle just to shoot you across the ravine and back up to the other side.
A lot of the trees on this hole also weren't straight up and down. Did you notice that? A bunch of the trees on this hole are like bent or sort of angled. They're diagonal.
There were
no branches, but they're just long, skinny tree trunks that aren't straight up and down. It's almost more annoying.
There were a lot of those throughout the courses that were kind of cool. You'll see a big one on the 18th hole.
Look at those, crisscrossing themselves. Owen is all the way at the bottom. I don't think I've seen anybody down here all week long.
That is such a difficult shot. So she's got to go over. And that just shows, look how high that first initial hill is. I mean, that was a great footage to show that we're going up and over and back down and back up. Like, such a difficult placement for Owen. And she is so tiny.
Here she goes again. This is her third.
She made it to the ravine on the other side of that big hill. Now she's got to go back up to the basket.
I think
and
she hit something yet again.
That is so hard. And shows that that's how people get birdies and your card mates can take a 6. Because if you get off the fairway at any time, it's so difficult to get back. Sarah knows she just needs a par to pick up a couple of strokes here. Beautifully done. Nice and flat, trying not to get any roll away. She wasn't even aiming at the basket. This is not where you want to hit the basket and roll.
That one settled.
Thank goodness.
We're okay. Again,
you can see the footing, very difficult. It was hard to go up this hill anyways, and you added mud.
Yep.
You needed hiking spikes to climb this hill.
Yeah, this was the steepest green and the steepest walk, I think, on the whole course, and that's saying something.
Yeah. Is that the biggest score Owen has put up this entire tournament? I don't think she got too many double bogeys for this entire event.
She can't have gotten too many double bogeys.
So Sarah with par picking up a couple of strokes back. Unfortunately, not going to be enough time.
Back to double digits, back to 10 right there. The 17th is a par 3 at 360 feet. Flat by comparison to so many of the other holes here at Camden 2. Players able to play something pretty straightforward here. They can, you can sort of work the disc a little bit from right to left, and you've got some room to let the disc finish naturally over there on the left side of the hole. There's some room around the right. If you play it a little too wide, you still might be able to finish back toward the basket. I kind of like 17. It's a good hole to be near the end of your round.
This was a fun hole to throw. You definitely still have to hit that initial line. You can't pull or release it early or late here off the tee. That's a great, again, you can see the short pin position there. That's a great placement area to land. But there was, I would say most of this field could actually, with a good throw, reach the basket for a birdie putt. As long as you can give that disc the full flight to get there. It's going to hyzer out just a little too soon, but that little kick's going to keep it up on the flatter portion of the fairway.
Yep.
It really slopes off pretty quickly on the right side. And the left side is just more wooded. This is a rare occurrence. We have Owen at the bottom of the box.
Something's wrong.
Something happened. She's going to work that destroyer straight up the gut. A little low, but that's fine. She's just going for the par here.
Settle down, settle down. A little bit down the slope.
Nice soft touch by Owen. Ooh, Sarah gives that one a chance.
I like that she held the follow through that long.
Probably didn't want to fall. Definitely some falls out there today. Oh, just a hair low. That was a good bid. And I think that's, the women who shot well were the players that were able to keep those up shots or putts, the putting close to the basket. And so, if you were trying to get the birdie, if you missed, did it stay close? Because you could turn a birdie into a bogey so fast on this course.
For sure.
Good par save by Sarah, and Kim going to tap in for the bogey, and we are to the very last hole. What a long week. What a long week.
Finally.
$3 a month. Join the Patreon crew for Ace Run Pro. They have brought so much incredible coverage of all the tournaments, their podcasts, their interviews all year long. Let's keep them out on the road. So join the Patreon account, $3 a month. Become an Ace Runner. All right, the last hole, the 18th. This is a par 3, 280 feet. That ravine we've played with all week long is deep in that on the left side of the fairway there. You want to throw a nice straight shot over this little hill, and that'll get you straight to the basket. Some of these forehand throwers are going to take the wide left side over that ravine and try to hyzer back right there at the base.
So I don't know if you've noticed, Jennifer, we haven't seen a birdie in 4 holes. So maybe some final fireworks here.
That's a great angle
this
and
could
flight
be it.
by Owen. Big skip. With Owen's putting, I'm going to say that's a birdie.
That's a good shot at one anyway. No doubt about it.
And she has nothing to lose, by running that one. So I have, seen some ugly rollaways on this, though.
Oh, certainly. Yeah.
Stay up, stay up, stay up.
That one's down, I think, in the creek where you have to use a climbing rope to get in and out.
Yeah. And that's just, we were all just dreading this ravine today with the rain. That's a little too high. It might punch through.
It does, awesome. And it digs, so it didn't roll back. Sarah now, she
stayed up?
She must have stayed up, or we missed the pitch up.
Either way, that's a great approach. She's going to be right there for the short putt in.
She did. She stayed up.
Nice.
Double checking the stats here, and she did indeed.
That's the last place you want to... stay up. Let's talk about staying up. Again, proof that is how sloppy.
And we didn't mention this. We didn't mention earlier. I think Kimberly went down like 3 or 4 times hard during the course of this round.
In the ravine and some of those shots we just couldn't see. There's that big birdie putt for Owen. That is our U.S. Masters Tim Selinske champion. Own our world and U.S. Masters FP40 champion this year.
That's incredible. 2-time major winner on the year, in the hunt for other majors during the course of the year.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what division she's playing in. You know that Owen is going to be right there battling for every title.
And she's talked about the fact that during this offseason, one of her biggest goals is trying to add a little bit of distance to her game. And I mean, if Owen can add 20, 25, 30, I mean, it won't take much. And all of a sudden, wow.
I've told her all season, I think she's picked up a good 30 to 50 already this in between the last year or two. She's really started pushing that 300-foot mark. And I think it's because of how much she's played. has built up her muscles and her technique is so perfect. That's something you do not see every day. A towel on the ground. You see it on the tee pads,
regular ground.
But on the ground. Proving to our audience here the steepness and the sloppiness of our day here. I'm glad Sarah stayed on top. I was going to say that is not how you wanted to finish a long week and a long day down in that big ravine. So glad she stayed on top. Congratulations to our amazing champion. Thank you for everyone watching. Thank you for all the competitors. It's been a great week here in Davenport.
One final look at the leaderboard. Look who made the podium.
I snuck in there with a decent round. So congratulations to Owen Scoggins again. Sarah Hokom in second place. Myself in third. Kimberly in fourth. And Jenny Umstead in fifth.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you continue to follow along with the PDGA on social media and right here on YouTube for coverage of all PDGA majors. See you next time.
Thank you, everyone.